let's talk about what we're doing with this Piʌot project. So the donut economics is my inspiration for this. So as I've been out running donut design for business workshops, you know that if you've done it before, you'll know you start with the regenerative and redistributive ideas, and then you get into the real crux of, well, but that could still be co-opted by business as usual. So how do we get into real transformation of the business so that we can transform our economy? And you get into the conversations about purpose and governance and culture and ownership and financing and networks and all those really interesting stuff. And 9 times out of 10, that's where it gets really difficult, because we've got these great ideas, we understand what to do, but what we lack is the momentum behind it. And so what I'm trying to do with Piʌot is put some momentum behind these ideas for regenerative transformation. And hopefully the end intent is that we start to put people power behind that. And we're going to start with this year of listening, talking to practitioners. So just to expand a bit more on that, the big question, fundamentally, this is a pivotal moment for humanity. And can we harness our talent for collective action in response to this pivotal moment? Because that's the big question, isn't it? What can we do? Because much as you might hear that, it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. The majority of people, 56%, according to the survey in 2020, 56% think that capitalism does more harm than good. And yeah, that figure varies massively between the global north and the global south. In the UK, it's about 30%, but even that's still a massive figure. There's a huge amount of people who recognise that the system isn't working, but we're not giving them the agency to do something about it. And yet their agency is what this transformation really requires. So the Piʌot Project is really an inquiry as to how can we put that 56% behind creating the change that we want to see. And that's about transforming businesses at their core, genuine transformation. So it's about transforming, like I was saying, purpose, ownership, governance, all those really fundamental things. But it's also about personal transformation. And that's certainly been my journey. I spent a lot of time when I think donut economics was really in my head, and I was trying to solve problems using donut economics, and I hadn't done the inner work, the personal development, to start to look at my motivations and how I was showing up in the world, and then relate that to the bigger strategic picture, the bigger structural picture, with the understanding that there is no system out there, there is no polycrisis out there. It's all in here. It's us. So we ourselves need to be the change that we wish to see, and that means letting go to let something new come, and lots of unlearning. And really, what Piʌot is trying to do is create a feedback loop between those people who know that the system isn't working, people like you and I who are creating change, and the businesses that are the agents of our system. And how can we use that people power to add some extra leverage into it? In effect, what we're trying to do is create a feedback loop, like you do in cultivating regenerative systems. You try and create that loop so that you're not fighting against it, that things start to work themselves. But it's a loop that we really are lacking at the moment, certainly at systemic scale. We've got all the individual components, but how are we scaling them up? And that really speaks to our theory of change. So, we know that our system is eating our future. And at the moment, the systems that we've got, the solutions that we've got aren't creating change at scale. So we've got two audiences. We've got the businesses that we want to change, and the people who know that change is needed. And the big idea behind this is that we want to develop and prototype practical ways that give people agency to create change in the system. And that's working both with citizens and with businesses to capitalize on this pivotal moment and create that more beautiful future that we long for. So Piʌot really, at the moment, Piʌot is about founding members who are folk like you and I, practitioners working with businesses on regenerative transformation, and people who've done their own transformational work as well. So it's a very decentralized approach. So I talk about my role as source. So I'm not the founder of it. I'm just the inspiration. I'm just trying to create a structure and a framework that allows us all to start to work more collaboratively and work towards a goal. So it's convergent. There's an awful lot of stuff out there, really brilliant stuff, which is very divergent, giving you the knowledge and the information to respond to the world and sending you off out there. What the Piʌot is trying to do is bring that divergent awareness back down to, and what can we do together to effect a transformation? And that's the whole purpose of it. So it's very likely that people on this call will go on to be their own source for activity that happens within Piʌot. So it's, like I say, it's highly decentralized. So we start with this year of listening, which engages our practitioner community. And then the intention is to build prototypes that start to put this out to the broader community. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. So that's what we're doing with our year of listening. We're really taking the time to reflect on what the opportunities are and what the problems are and what the root cause of those problems are. Piʌot is not about tackling symptoms, it's about getting to causes. And the only way we do that is spending lots of time deliberating, reflecting, and not just jumping straight into a solution. The whole approach is very inspired by Joachim Malafe and his notion about the times are urgent, but we have to slow down. And that's been a revelation for me, I have to say, and it runs through everything that I'm looking to do. So yeah, after the year of listening, the idea is that we start to come back together and create co-design circles where we build some prototypes. We build some things that we can put out into the world with the hope of starting to shift the needle on regenerative transformation. So what might that look like? And these are just examples so that you've got something to go, okay, right, I see what he means by a prototype. Because these aren't little, let's put a minimum viable product website together. It's like, well, how could we crowdfund the future? How could we fund that transformational that transformation of organizations into regenerative organizations that start to deprioritize profit maximization and look at all the other benefits that they can provide? And could we do that through an app where, like 1% for the Planet, where consumers get to say, yeah, I do want to contribute to this transformational fund, so that we establish a fund that then starts to push businesses in the right direction, and that the ideas of donor economics and alternative business models are made easier to implement if you had a fund there. Or what about if we had bioregions based on water companies? Water companies in the UK at the moment, I don't know what they're like in Germany, I don't know what they're like in Spain. In the UK, they're pumping out rivers full of shit. I'm sorry to say it, because that's what they're geared to do. They're geared to see how much profit can we make out of this entity, out of stewarding this most precious of resources. Let's just see how much profit we can make. And yet it's a massively missed opportunity when so much of the agenda is about moving to the local and to a bioregional approach. And yet we've already got these businesses working on that level that are quasi-public bodies in lots of instances. So why couldn't they become the basis of a bioregion? Just an example. So yeah, a prototype might be, let's go out and crowdfund the purchase of a water company, or persuade the government to give it back to the nation. Or what about getting cultural figures on board? The reason that Piʌot is kind of trying to work alongside established systems is this recognition that so much of government, so much of business is co-opted by business as usual. So who isn't, and who's got a community? Well, cultural figures, for one, have got a very large community and a very large voice with them. So how could we give those cultural figures something that they can contribute, so that they bring their own communities into this? So there you go. These aren't, like I say, these are just suggestions of what a prototype might look like. What actually emerges is what comes out of our conversations and our deliberations. So there we go. That's the Piʌot Project. our website is repivot.today, because it's all about action. It's about turning this future moment, this future that we long for, into something that's live and happening right now.